conditional use permit.
Right, but I think Commissioner Jukes is trying to understand how tall is everything inside this?
And I can, that's the second part of, I guess, the answer that Jason started talking about it. So, you know, first off, we have a question of whether that, we would argue that it doesn't even apply, considering the fact this is the power utility pole, power utility structures. Secondly, we have, Jason called them dead-end structures. That's the term that we use. It takes the line from the transmission lines coming in, and it stops the line and then brings it down into the substation. Within the substation, we expect all of the structures other than those dead ends to be less than 35 feet.
So to summarize, to make sure I understand correctly, the only structures within there that are over 35 feet are the two dead-end structures. And your position is that those are power lines, not structures within the meaning of the county code, and therefore that provision of 35-foot limit does not apply.
Yes.
Power poles. Did I say something else? Power poles, yeah. Sorry. Poles have lines on them.
What happens to the old substation? To the, at 600, between 5th and 6th in Heber City?
The old substation.
Isn't there a substation in Heber City?
It stays there.
Oh, the Heber substation? Yeah, that's a load-serving substation in Heber City.
Has nothing to do with this?
Has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
We're stuck with both of them.
And then you made a comment as you went through the code sections. So there's no noise or vibrations. You don't hear that buzzing or
Not at our property.
humming.
Not at the property line.
Okay, I just want to make sure,
Poles.
just so we have a record, you're saying no noise, no vibration, because we got to mitigate if there is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so no noise, no vibration, no smells, no dust, no lightning bolts.
No, I mean, during
I
construction.
was kidding about lightning. That's what I said. I was just kidding. Just smells. We just got to make a record about
I've
what we
had
did.
people ask me to beam it across the valley, you know, so.
Someday. But the point is, it's not going to be noisy, smelly, dusty, offensive in those ways.
No, I mean, it's at our property lines, we will, you know, you're not going to feel any vibrations. You're not going to hear anything out of this thing at our property line.
Okay.
At our property line.
What about the poles?
The inside the facility itself, the metal inside that facility will be galvanized, and the substations or the substation transformers are usually a very gray color.
Where is the county line? Just to your east property line? Is that the end of the county?
Yes. So just to the east, and just to clarify this too, just to the east is the proposed bypass road. And, you know, I've been told by MAG and Heber City that they need additional footage from that east side, which is why we're currently holding over to the west side, because they did, for the proposed bypass road, they don't have quite enough property there. I will say we will slide it as much as we can to the east once we determine exactly where that line needs to go, working with UDOT, MAG, and Heber City.
So Jason, that's what it shows on your drawing is the road encroaching onto that southeast corner there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And then on the other side of that right-of-way for the bypass, that's Heber City.
That's Heber City.
So there's I think a platted subdivision there, right?
Yes.
instructed you as to the choice between higher poles, longer spans?
My board recommended the longer span to eliminate as many poles as we could throughout the project. You know, they really went into transmission construction 101 for a long period of time on this project, and after, you know, many meetings and many hours, you know, that's what they ultimately came up with was, you know, what looks the best is, you know, a little bit higher pole, but increase the spans as much as possible. Also taking that distribution off was no small thing by our board. You know, that's going to put, you know, money on Heber Light Power ratepayers to get all of that buried and never have the option on the portions of the line that we don't have distribution currently. We won't have that option to put distribution there. So, you know, we're estimating that to be a very expensive thing that our power board did to mitigate this project.
In the difference in height, I know that we can't do it specifically because you're talking about points and the curve of the wires as they hang, the lines as they
And
hang.
also the way the ground is, you know, I mean, if there's a hill and.
Oh, right.
You know,
That's right. If there's a little rise in the ground between the poles, all that stuff. But the difference in height between more poles and fewer poles, whether we're looking at a 75-foot pole, more 75-foot poles versus fewer 100-foot poles, the incremental difference is, I don't know if we can get this specific, but it's not that much to go that much higher to get fewer poles, right?
Yeah,
I
and
don't know if there's
also removing the distribution removes several poles because now we don't have
right,
to.
you don't have to drop.
We don't have to drop a pole in just
Right.
for a house drop. So.
Right. So I guess to further that, if we have to decide this, my personal view is I favor fewer poles and with a little more height. Personally, but one view.
I agree.
So we have to address that, right?
We have to decide.
I've heard some comments, I think, at the prior meeting, people have said things in between, that there was some lackluster effort to try and find other areas to put the substation. I'm sure you've heard that as well. I'm not a proponent of that theory, but what I'm offering you is the opportunity to perhaps explain what effort went into deciding on this location.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we beat around the bush quite a bit, and really went after one piece of property very hard. You know, did a written offer, felt like it was a fair offer, it was at appraised value, could not get a written offer in return. A lot of talk, but never a written counter of any kind. Went and met with, you know, other landowners. You know, they just weren't really willing to sell. You know, I mean, it's like, no, I'm not interested in selling to you. You know, move on. You know, I think to say a lackluster effort is, I think, not fair. It's not. We beat the bush for months trying to find a different location for this, and you know, diligently went after other properties. And you know, when this particular landowner was a willing and person to sell, and it was right underneath the line, and you know, it made sense. So that's we put an offer into him at appraised value, and he accepted it. So that's where we're at.
Are you aware of any studies that suggest that a power substation puts any health risk to anybody living nearby.
No, we have substations all over, and I
You're not going to answer that.
don't hear anything, so, I mean, you know, there's a lot of
How
stuff,
about Rocky Mountain?
there's a lot of stuff on Google, and, you know, but
Well,
Yeah.
there's I'm tossing you a softball. I don't think you're getting that. I'm going like this.
As Jason alluded, yeah, I'm also not aware of anything. You can find a lot of information on Google and.
No, but you guys, wait.
I'm not.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to search Google.
You're a professional in the power industry.
Yes.
I understand. I can find foil hat stuff on. That's not what I'm
I
talking
am
about.
not aware.
That's, I'm doing this because the public will want to understand that we as a planning commission have thought this stuff through. That's why I asked you this question. Even if I think I know what your answer is going to be, I'm making a record because we're trying to do our job. And if our job is to mitigate risks to health, and I ask you, are there risks to health by your project? You better, as a professional, you need to be able to say with some level of confidence, no, this is not going to jeopardize the health of the public. So don't tell, you guys are pros. You got to know how to answer this.
hey, I did.
You just told them how
It
to.
was in my presentation under safety. We're gonna build this thing to National Electric Code standards, which is the national standard for safety and health.
That's the good answer, not look on Google. Okay. That's the right answer. There's a reason I asked the question. We have to do our job too. If you've done the work, you say, yes, in fact, let me remind you.
I think we're getting,
In the application, we also included a study provided by the National Institute of Health and Environmental Studies. That was included in the application and should be part of the record as well.
Good. That's a good answer.
While I was waiting for my car at the dealers today, I noticed behind the label dealership, are those non-reflective lines on those poles? Do you know? Do you have any idea?
Behind the labor and dealership,
Yeah, there's some
on
power
the
lines.
46 KV line that's back there.
Yeah, are those non-reflective lines? Because I could hardly even
Yeah.
see them.
That's not spectral.
Any other questions?
I just want to say, I appreciate personally the work that you put into this. I don't know how many meetings I've been in with you guys, so I've heard this many times, and I know it's taken a lot of effort, so just appreciate you guys being prepared and willing to answer the questions, regardless of what the result is today. Appreciate you doing that.
Well, we thank you guys for the job you guys do.
Thank you. We'll open it up now to public, well, let me see, close. Did you have something to say, Jeff?
I do have something to say. So with my motion that closed public comment as to the power line issues and left it open only as to the substation, I do think the applicant's done a good job in not expected to come to present evidence on the power line issues, so thank you for that. However, due to some concerns about this issue being so important and a lot of public concern about it, I make a motion to reopen public comment as to the telephone line, the power line portion of the discussion.
I'd second that, but I can't say it properly, so we
So I said it improperly. Okay. I make a motion to reopen public discussion as to the power line poles portion of the discussion, whereas we already have a public discussion on the substation. However, I would ask the chairman to please instruct the public as to limiting the time and comment.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. So with that, we'll hear public comment on both items, if there is any, on the power poles as well as the substation. We'll limit the time for each person to 3 minutes. I would remind you that what you do talk about needs to be not just public clamor, not just saying, I don't want it. You need to bring some sort of actual factual reason. And so anyway, when you do come up, please state your name so you can record that. Everybody?
Hi, my name's Tracy Taylor, Heber City. And I really appreciate you opening up the public hearing. But my concerns are this process so far. So I sent a formal complaint to the county attorney, and my concerns are that a year and a half ago, this application was different than it was now, substantially so. There's state law that we need to follow here, which is if the application is substantially different from the previous application, the process starts over. That's a concern to me. There was no substation 2 years ago when they came, and they also moved the route of the power poles from where they were 2 years ago. I did grammar request the application for 2019. There's not much information on this application. I assume it's the whole application, but on this map, the substation is in the wrong place. It's not even where they are proposing to put it. And this is on the application that was submitted in March of 2019. So that's my concern as well. You had a public hearing notice on that June 4th meeting that advertised a public hearing, and then you didn't have one. You closed the public hearing saying it was closed 2 years ago. The route had changed, the substation was added. That concerns me, that you just commented on how important this subject is to the public and why it was so important to hear from everybody on this new substation, and you close the public hearing. That, I don't believe, is proper. The other concern I have is the public hearing notice in June 4th did not have a specific address for the substation. It said, in the vicinity of 12th West and 650 South for the substation. They did not put the exact address on there. That, I think, is a violation. We all know where this property is. We Prop 10 last year on the November ballot, narrowed down this area. This is not the exact 20 acres that was trying to be rezoned last year, but it's right next door and it's the same property owner. The other issue I have is the actual contract between Rocky Mountain Power and Heber Light and Power, which we haven't even discussed at all. And I think as planning commissioners and county council, you are here to protect the citizens of Wasatch County. And there is a section of the Heber Light and Power and Rocky Mountain Power contract on page 10. It's section 4. It talks about existing rights. And I have a copy of this if you guys need it. Existing rights. The parties acknowledge that Heber Light and Power, sorry, I'm going to go over. The parties acknowledge that Heber Light and Power already holds some property rights along the corridors identified as possible locations for the Heber Midway line and will transfer those rights to Rocky Mountain Power for the Heber Midway line, the tie line, and the Section 120 line. They are turning over the Heber Light and Power property rights, or easements, I'm assuming, to Rocky Mountain Power. We're not going to own those locally anymore. Rocky Mountain Power is going to own those easements. That should be a concern. And then right below that in section 6, it talks about the parties' obligations. It says, if a party objects to an action taken or proposed to be taken by the other party, so Heber Light and Power and Rocky Mountain Power are the two parties. If a party objects to an action taken or proposed to be taken by the other party under this section 5.5 and the parties are unable to determine a mutually agreeable course for proceeding, a party may proceed, notwithstanding the objection, with the disputed action, provided that the party pays all costs. So,
Thank you.
Rocky Mountain Power can do what they want, even if Heber Light and Power, who is owned by the local citizens, have an objection to anything. That is a concern to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Yes.
First of all, Richard Doxey on behalf of Nimphus Murdoch Springs, my client adjoining the property to the substation. First of all, I'd like to thank you for continuing it from our last meeting. I appreciate it. I feel that particularly Commissioner Hendricks recognized that there was not sufficient presentation or consideration of the substation, and I appreciate you coming back. First of all, I want to say I'm pleased with some of the things that have been proposed. I was able to meet with the county staff and the attorney, explain our position. I like seeing some of this come through in the next report or in your staff report. Some of the concerns, when conditional use permits are granted, I think we need to be, for the power companies, direction and for the protection of us, I don't think we can just simply say, yeah, do vegetation around. This is an example. I think we need to give them guidance. What I would like, if you're going to approve the substation, okay, and it's 35 feet, you're going to put 110 trees. Okay, so what are the height of the trees? I don't want 5-foot trees surrounding a 40-foot, 35-foot galvanized steel. So I think it's reasonable to require them to have trees 30 to 40 feet. I think that's consistent with our valley. We have really high trees through here. I think that can be done very easily. The closest that I've seen and heard from, and I've only got this from the staff report, is that the power company is ambiguous as to what they can have and what they can't. Well, for us to properly address mitigating factors, they need to know what we can have. So right now, I think we said, if they haven't put it, I think we put the trees need to be 30 to 40 feet. Meaning, I'm not saying they have to plant 30 to 40 feet. I'm saying when they're mature. I think the 6 to 10 feet, at planting, I think that's reasonable. Right. Moving the substation to the center of the lot. Part of my concern is this on? I'll try to show it here. But on Exhibit B in the staff report, so this is what they submitted before, okay? And I had concerns because it's too close to my client's property. I think it should be, there was a lot of rhetoric last time. Well, it's got to be somewhere. I hate to be it, but let's really talk practical. If this is going next to your property and your home, okay, where do you want it? Okay, you don't want it right here. I think it could be up here. I don't think this home should have any preference over any of this other property. Just because Heber Valley, the power company owns that home, doesn't give them the right to come push it down further to the detriment of the other neighbors. Now this is what they propose, the location, from what I've done without the landscaping, and it looks like there's still quite a bit of room here that this can move up. This is the part where they're concerned with the bypass road. Okay, I think moving the substation up is reasonable. Okay. Right now, according to the staff, and again, this is one of the issues where the power company has not committed to what setbacks are. I think we need to leave here, we're saying you need to have setbacks. Okay? So right now what they say is there's, the staff report says 80 feet from the west, they had 100 feet from the south, they had 480 feet from the, can I have 6 minutes to that to address poles and things on this? And I think this valuable things that at the end of the day will help the commission. How do you pronounce your name?
Zurcher.
Zurcher. He was making light of me that I told you guys how to do it because of the law, okay? I'm here in good faith, okay? Okay. So, there's 80 feet here, 100 feet here, they say 125 feet here, and 480 feet here, okay? I want 200 at least, okay? I want it moved up as much as we can. The power company owns all this land, there's no reason why we can't move this up, okay? So I would expect that one of the main factors that we're going to lead back with concrete setbacks as to what they're going to have to comply with. Okay. The other thing is there's the condition on the height poles. Okay. I don't know how high these poles are. The end poles, the staff report says 75 feet to 80 feet. You know, if they want to exceed 35 feet, they always have the option of burying it in the substation. I don't know if that's possible. But I don't know what the limitation on the conditional use permit is going to set the height pole within the substation. Okay. I don't want a 110-foot pole somewhere where it's 35 feet is what would be recommended. Okay. Now, the size of the substation. I can appreciate what they've done here. Okay. And, you know, they've gone back since our last meeting and took their best approach to say, okay, we got to fit under this 4 acres. They came here trying to get much larger last month. And I want to read, and you can go pull up the meeting video that's on there. But on 3 hours, 16 minutes, 28, you can start there, and it ends at 3 hours, 17:38. And I believe it was Commissioner Jukes that threw a softball question to them. We were trying to supplement the record at the end. He says, and is it accurate that it will be 10 acres in size, the substation? And the ultimate answer is, we're looking at probably the substation footprint being 8 to 10 acres range, and know that in the substation, the more land you can get, the lower they can make it, is what he's explaining. And so the POD substation, us and Rocky Mountain together, we're looking at an 8 to 10 acre range, but we're planning on fencing 13 acres. So, you know, we can go back and say what, you know, this constrained thing, of achieving these each separate things to try to calculate the 3.5 acres or whatever they had other man, but they already admitted that this whole footprint's 8 to 10 acres for their substation. Now, that was already done last week. Okay. So, look, I just want the law followed. Okay? I think we start with the zoning, and then we make our mitigating factors, what's going to keep this property and the surrounding area a residential agriculture area. That's what they bought. They didn't buy public utility property, they didn't buy that. They bought residential agriculture property. So they need to work within those